Hello, and welcome to the Psych and Business Podcast, where we highlight the integration of psychology and psychological principles into the world of business and organizations. I'm your host, Dr. Ernest Wayde. I'm pretty excited today because I have another great guest for you. Her name is Dr. Patti Weiter, and she's doing some really interesting things with the well-being of leaders. Dr. Weiter is a dynamic executive coach who aims to create and sustain work environments that maximize human potential. Patti integrates her training as a clinical health psychologist into her consulting approach by expertly blending the biological, psychological, and social aspects of leader and organizational behavior to drive change and sustainable results, all grounded in science. She's also president of the Kentucky Psychological Association and owns Shine Psychology, where she provides numerous services including coaching, consulting, and speaking. Patti has 3 young daughters and finds meaning in coaching others, in coaching other working moms to help them navigate alignment in their careers and home life. Patti, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here with you. I've been listening to the podcast and excited to have a turn to speak with you.
Patti, I really appreciate that because I know you also are a guest, a host on your own podcast show. But before we jump into any of these, I always want to start by asking, how did you end up in the world of business?
So it's kind of been a winding road. My interest started in psychology and in the frame of healthcare. I have nurses in my family, was
Mm-hmm.
interested in being able to help people in some way. And so my training started in clinical psychology. Really, I was just drawn to human behavior and understanding people. But over time, once I was out and working within systems,
Mm-hmm.
I was finding myself interested in the ways that I could impact the system to better serve larger groups of people.
Yeah.
So, I've had clinical aspects to what I've done in my career, but I've
Mm-hmm.
always had the majority of my work being in applied psychology. And, over time, doing consulting, doing a lot of work with teams and process improvement and things like that, it has led me into the world of business. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Not because I thought that's where I need to be initially, but because it's interested me and it's sort of been an organic journey to find ways to apply what I've learned in that sector.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting story and an interesting timeline that you're describing. I want to jump right into the work that you do because I love holistic approaches, and so I want to know more about how you do this work and combine psychological, biological, and social to help leaders. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So my background is in health psychology, and that's really understanding the body, the
Hmm.
brain, your internal systems, and understanding what's going on with not only dysfunction, things like a diagnosis of diabetes, heart disease, brain
Yeah.
injury, something like that, but also understanding how you can thrive when health behaviors and the impact of psychological intervention allow a person to maximize their well-being.
Hmm.
So combining together aspects of what I know from my training as a health psychology, aspects from what I know in the study of positive psychology,
Hmm.
how do we go beyond baseline? I find the workplace to be a setting to apply those same things that I've applied in the past throughout my career at individual and group levels.
Hmm.
So, I have all kinds of experiences working with folks on changing health behaviors, really working on that aspect of influencing their physical, biological systems because they are stopping using tobacco or
Hmm.
practicing mindfulness in the frame of chronic pain or, engaging in exercise as a way to manage stress. So,
Hmm.
all of these kind of overlapping aspects of psychology and influencing your biological system
Yeah.
in ways that we can control. And the social aspect is such a critical component of that. So all kinds of work in the field of positive psychology points to connection to other people
Mm-hmm.
as an important aspect of our well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to weave this in with the understanding of workplace well-being is is the underlying foundation of how do we work together as humans.
Yeah.
In a workplace, we are connecting all the time with people. Are we doing that intentionally in a way that's a high quality connection, or
Mm-hmm.
are we focused on the work but not the relationship? And so what I like to do is really gain an understanding anytime I'm engaging with, a new individual, a team, an organization, what's going well?
Yeah.
What is it that allows them to do what they're doing to this point to achieve success, whatever accomplishments that they are proud of? And where can we look at ways we could tweak the system to uplift the well-being of people, to inspire compassion towards the individuals for themselves
Mm-hmm.
and in the relationships they have with each other, and then challenge the status quo over time to get to an optimal functioning and not only a workplace where you can achieve and whatever the business model is,
Mm-hmm.
but also a place that can contribute to the well-being of the people that work there,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
uplift them. That's really what draws me to working in the field of business and applying psychology, is being able to have a large scale impact. We spend a lot of hours of the day at work, so
Yeah.
if we can uplift people there, that's a way that we can uplift our population at scale.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you're saying and your approach here, because you're really talking about leveraging all the different aspects, all the different tools that you have to try to make sure that people are feeling well at work and are engaging well, right? You're talking about the psychological, the biological, the social. You're leveraging all the tools there to make sure that people can work effectively and efficiently. To
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit more about why it's really important for leaders specifically to really focus on well-being, please.
Well, there are business elements to it. So,
Mhm.
there is research that aligns performance in the stock market for a business with ratings of the well-being of their employees. So,
Hmm.
we know that, you can look at a lot of different ways that we slice the information, but well-being of employees is going to contribute to better business success.
Mhm.
Aside from that, dollars and cents aspect of, contributing to employees' engagement, retaining great employees, being able to, um, you know, really drive the speed of results when we
Mhm.
have great relationships at work, when people are highly engaged and motivated. All of these things are not only uplifting the impact of the business, but
Mhm.
also it's a synergistic sort of environment where you get more out of everyone
Mhm.
when the dynamics between them are working well. And when they are physically well, when they are mentally well, spiritually well, all of those things are going to allow them to be even more impactful in whatever the work is that they are doing. So it's a mutual benefit.
Mhm.
It benefits leaders for their own prevention of burnout, for their own sense of eudaimonia, accomplishment, meaning in their life.
Yeah.
All of those underlying things that will say, once you retire, if you look back on your career, what do you think about it? Hopefully, you have this sense of um, accomplishment that goes beyond, um, a metric that maybe is important today, this year,
Mhm.
but over the grand scheme, this sense of meaning. So that is going to more clearly define the sense of purpose for the leader.
Mm-hmm.
that helps them to maintain their drive, that helps them to inspire their employees, that helps them to be able to create a culture where people want to be.
Yeah.
So all of these things are benefiting the leader as an individual, benefiting the business, benefiting
Mm-hmm.
the employees. Um, and and aside from, again, that impact in the workplace, it goes
Right.
beyond. So when
Mm-hmm.
people are well at work, that contributes to their well-being outside of work. When they leave and go back to their family or, their friends, their communities,
Right.
we are impacting the largest part of their day. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I think the altruistic aspects that draw me to this work are that we can uplift society at large when we at scale are able to improve people's well-being because of the places that they spend most of their time. But we know that it also has, the fiscal benefits that make sense to contribute some of, our attention on this. Um, because, I know that there's a balance when we're considering how do we spend our dollars? How do
Right.
we, make sure that we are being strategic?
Mm-hmm.
And it really meets both of those demands.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that it has well-being has a global impact.
Mhm.
Thinking of it from terms of all the things that it can impact in terms of our home life and our societies, but it also has that benefit in terms of the financial aspect, right? Because the when a person is well physically, mentally, emotionally, and are in social environments that promote wellness, then they're more likely to feel fulfilled and engaged in their workplace, and you're more likely to get more out of them.
Yeah.
Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all think about when we've worked in a place where we felt like we got to use our strengths at work.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to have an impact on the work and improving the work over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We felt like we mattered to the team. We had a sense of belonging. We have a sense of connection.
Mm-hmm.
Even in those little 1 minute connections, maybe we have, if we're passing someone in a hall, if we're having a quick phone call, all of those add up over time,
Mm-hmm.
and contribute to our well-being. But all of those elements, if we can craft them in a way where they really serve the individual and serve the organization, the
Mm-hmm.
tasks of the work, the connections to people in the
Yeah.
workplace, and the way that they understand their sense of purpose and contribution, all of those can build momentum to, use the best of who we have together with us. Have people using their strengths and maximizing their potential rather than saying, this is the box we need to fit you in. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I want you to do. That sort of command and control, go execute the tasks I tell you to execute,
Yeah.
more transactional leadership. So this is, it is aligned to more of a humble leadership approach
Mm-hmm.
where,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I'm asking everyone at work to use their strengths, that's also inherently identifying that we're not great at everything.
Right.
So, for every person in the workplace, we have to have this humble, um, you know, idea of how do we understand our strengths
Mm-hmm.
and the things where maybe I could defer to the expertise of someone else, allow them to use something that they're really good at in the workplace. So, um, I think it's an approach that maybe some people are uncomfortable with at times if
Mm-hmm.
they really like to have control of everything. However, we have evidence that supports humble, open types of dialogue that allow teams to be able to go beyond what we can accomplish in a
Mm-hmm.
transactional model where they're executing exactly what they're told to do. We want them critical thinking. We want
Right.
them,
Right.
you
Can
know,
you, Patty? Can you share with us some of those examples and where you've seen this work? 'Cause I think one of the things that I always hear is, "Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know how that I would make that happen." Can you share some of that examples of
yeah,
that?
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I've done a lot of work in healthcare, And so I think of teams that I've worked with over the years, and some that when I began working with them would describe themselves as dysfunctional. We are not, they are identifying maybe, technically, maybe. So I think for a specific example, a team of surgeons and all of the other people that contribute to making surgeries happen.
Right.
They reached out because of difficulty communicating with each other and feeling like they were putting themselves at risk, of something going wrong over time because this communication is just not working. We're bumping heads. When I got in and am working with them and starting out in a compassionate, humble way myself to say, I want to understand this situation. It starts to build a relationship where people can share in a more vulnerable way about, what is going well, and then where do we see we're not utilizing our strengths. With the team that I'm thinking of and that I have in mind, all of the people that seem to be most passionate are those people that were bumping heads. They all wanted to execute, to be able to serve their patients in a way where they provided the best quality care. They all wanted that. However, the ways they interacted with each other led them to feel like they're getting in each other's way. And so creating spaces with them where we were able to not only have a sense of shared gratitude for who on the team contributes in different ways. I was able with one small team that was struggling. I was able to help them go through a process of identifying, why are you grateful for this person on the team? This person you butt heads with. What do they bring that you are grateful for? And all of them could identify something that person is either an expert in, that they do that nobody else does, that they contribute to whatever process. And they could identify that sense of shared mission. They know this person actually, wants to serve the patient. And so over time, being able to start from that space of appreciating each other and building that connection and relationship as the foundation, then we can start to challenge, well, what are the modalities of communication we're using? What's not working? How do we, disrupt the status quo so that we can get to a place of better functioning? And we're able to really craft that and again identify the the strengths we have on the team, leverage those. But it really takes openness to trying something new, and also a leader who is willing to admit their own fallibility. If maybe they recognize that there are parts of the current state that they could change about themselves. And so
I think that's impressive that you're able to do that with surgeons. I mean, I've done some work with physicians and surgeons, and they're not the easiest group to get them to admit that they're fallible. So that's a really great example.
Yeah, I think context is so important, and so many times I've had to say yes in a surgery suite. I don't want you to be taking the risks. However, in this setting of communicating with each other, we can take some risks right now, so that we have lower risk in that surgery suite later, so that we're able to improve our process. But it is a challenge sometimes, whether it be surgeons or someone who's in an executive role who feels like I've got to know all the answers and everyone has to trust that I'm pointing us in the right direction. There are situations people get into where their heart is in the right place. They are really trying their best to help the system, help the customer that they're serving, whatever, but they go about doing so in a way that is rigid. And so that typically then shuts down relationships or shuts down process improvement.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's important to be open to having some honest conversations,
Mm-hmm.
being able to get to the heart of what's going on more quickly so that we can challenge the actual everyday rituals that lead to
Yeah.
whatever isn't working, you know.
And if you're
Um,
using that unique perspective of the psychological, the biological, and the social, you can really get them to think about, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and how that's impacting other people as well. I love that approach.
yeah, I like to use appreciative inquiry. That is, I think a humble approach where we're able to start with, what strengths we have. I
Mm-hmm.
also, I assess emotional intelligence and I can talk about emotional intelligence, but one element of that is the self-awareness of understanding what's
Hmm.
happening inside. What are my
Yeah.
thoughts, emotions, physical experiences? And I think, for a frontline employee, it can contribute to a sense of what's in it for me to change? Why would I want to change the way things are right now? When we can align to their individual sense of well-being, to
Mm-hmm.
preventing burnout for them as an individual, most people would say, well, yeah, I want to feel better. I want to come to work every day and have a different experience.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have a sense of invigoration from work and not drain from work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so, having an approach that invites dialogue from all different, levels of, frontline employee, executive leadership, that can, humanize the workplace. We are
Mm-hmm.
all just humans interacting with each other, trying to, accomplish some shared goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned this all helps leaders have greater self-awareness. I know you also do some work with leader identity development, right? And I think that also includes some self-awareness. Talk to us a little bit about why that's important. Why is that important for a leader to have?
You know, um, I actually was just talking to my good friend Dr. Mira Broncu earlier about leader identity, and sometimes we compartmentalize aspects of ourselves. I have intersectional identities. I
Mm-hmm.
have all these different parts of me that contribute to who I am. And maybe some of the messages that I get, whether it be in society, in an organization that I'm embedded within, might tell me that a leader has to be like this.
Right.
But what happens if that doesn't align with maybe the other messages I'm getting about what I have to be because I'm a woman, or what I
Mm-hmm.
have to be because of my age, or
Mm-hmm.
how I'm supposed to be? For me, I talk a lot about being a working mom.
Mm-hmm.
How can I interweave what I know about bringing the best of myself and my strengths and what I'm learning about all these different aspects of my identity into a leadership role, rather than trying to mold myself into some other idea of what I see as leadership or what I hear about what leaders have to be.
Yeah. How do you be
Sometimes,
authentic?
yeah, sometimes we're
Mm-hmm.
even getting conflicting messages about, you have to be decisive and strong, and you have to be the one who moves with authority. You're assertive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm getting those messages, but then when I am being assertive, I'm also being told that I shouldn't do that, or I should, I come across this way or that way that is not effective. And that, you know, that is an impact of systems
Mm-hmm.
that might judge different individuals differently doing the exact same things. And so a lot of times that can have an individual confused, sometimes internalizing that something is wrong with them, that,
Mm-hmm.
we hear imposter syndrome. Usually that's a sign that there is a systemic impact on that individual, not necessarily just that this individual is not confident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important when we understand someone aspiring to be a leader, how do we help them authentically engage with people,
Mm-hmm.
um, figure out what those individuals need to be able to succeed at work, and how they can contribute to the system serving themselves and the people that they are leading,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't necessarily have to change who they are, completely switch who I am when I walk into the workplace from who I am, on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Obviously we have some boundaries, and, we have some things that are important about a workplace setting that are different than maybe how we interact with other people in our lives. But at the end of the day, if you feel like you are having to like fake it till you make it,
Mm.
there's a conflict there. You're going to have this incongruence that is draining.
Mm-hmm. Well, Patti, that's that's really cool hearing the work that you're doing. And I know you also do workshops and have keynotes. How do people get a hold of you if they want to, engage your services?
The best way is really to connect on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there, and people can, hear about the latest of what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and, send me a message. So just connecting with, Patti Weiter on LinkedIn. I also have a webpage, pattiweiter.com. But, whichever way you find me, I am responsive and love connecting with people. So
Thank you,
whatever
Patti.
that leads to.
Excellent. And then I always like to take advantage of the great guests that we have, some free advice. So what's tips or suggestions would you have for leaders out there in this environment right now?
I think it's important for leaders to understand the importance of agility in the place we are now with workplaces, with changes in technology, the future of use of AI, changes in the demographics of our workforce,
Mm-hmm.
all these changes, we know they're coming.
Yeah.
It's not coming out of nowhere. And so if we know that we are working in a time where there's going to be a constant shift and uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
that being able to have a structure supporting your well-being and allowing you to be agile and resilient,
Mm-hmm.
then you're preparing yourself for all those things that we see to come your way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have all the answers, but we want you to feel prepared to, ride the rapids that are, the workplace of today,
Mm-hmm.
um, versus, feeling like I can, I can take what I've, learned in the past and what other people have said, and that's always going to apply in future states. We
Yeah.
know that so many things are rapidly changing that we have to be agile and prepared to maintain our drive and our our sense of purpose over time.
Yeah, I love that advice. I mean, I think you're talking about looking ahead a little bit, right? And preparing, right? Building up your resilience and increasing your agility so that you can adapt and make changes to some of the things we can see and some of the things that we don't see coming ahead. So I think that's great advice for any leader in an organization.
Yeah.
Well, Patti, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure. We're definitely going to have to come back because I really want to hear more about, the integration of psychological, biological, and social. I love any integration. So we're definitely going to have to have you come back and go deeper into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And to our audience, thanks for listening. I hope you will join us next time.